Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Harry Potter Trading Card Game Podcast. My name is Sammy, and today we have a bit of a different podcast. We went to Gen Con a couple of weeks ago, and so I have a guest on today who was there with me running the events, and we're going to talk about Gen Con. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, Carter. I've been with the group for a while. This is the first event I've got to go to, and it was a blast. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, so I actually want to talk about you going to events or trying to in the past. So we'll talk about our history at Gen Con a little bit, and then I want to talk about your history trying to go to Gen Con for Harry Potter as well. A brief history of the Harry Potter group at Gen Con. The first event was in 2015. They did a couple of different things, including Learn to Play, a classic. At that time, it was the only format, but a classic event. And then they also did a Giant Wars, which was essentially a Harry Potter take on Commander for Magic. I don't know how well it did. I don't know if it was a good idea to bring that into this game or not, but they tried that. And so then they had events from 2015 to 2019, kind of doing different things every year. And then COVID hit and COVID shut down Gen Con. We never really went during the COVID years. And then we decided to actually come back in 2026, which is this year, and bring back a bunch of stuff. But you tried to come back earlier than we tried to come back because we were talking about it and then we lied to you.
Yeah. So I originally, the first Gen Con I actually went to was supposed to be in 2020. That's the tickets I bought. Then Gen Con was actually canceled that year altogether. So everyone who bought tickets, you had the chance to either get the refund or just push them to 2021. So instead of me getting the
Oh.
refund, I pushed them expecting, I was like, well, I can't go this year, so I'll see everybody in 2021. And then it was still just me. I did have a good time though. I just didn't see any of the Harry Potter people.
Yeah, we did talk about it that year. There was just still so much in the air with COVID that we decided no. So I'm sorry to you and anybody else who tried to go over the past couple of years when we talked about it and just didn't follow through with our promises. So I'm glad we could come back this year and that we could both experience it for the first time because it was quite an event. I know your second Gen Con, but our first Harry Potter stuff, which was a lot of fun. Let's dive into actually talking about the events. So we hosted 4 events. There was a Learn to Play, a Draft, Classic Tournament, and Revival Tournament. So let's talk about the Learn to Play a little bit and just kind of break down what happened.
I really enjoyed the Learn to Play. It was probably out of our 4 events, it was probably my favorite. There was quite a few people that showed up. I think there was like 12 people we taught how to play. We mostly divided them up. You took half, I took half, and we taught them how to play because I play other trading card games that are much more complicated. It surprisingly didn't take that long to teach everybody, and kind of just we hovered and we played a little bit ourselves. Everybody had a blast looking at the different arts and learning how to play the different cards, the spells and adventures and creatures in it, etc. And I think everybody had a great time. I know I had a great time both teaching them and playing against them.
Oh
Talk
yeah.
about nerd things with all of these people.
That summarizes
And
the
it was
entire
it was
week.
really, and I also thought it was really cool. Like it would have been nice to teach some of the like kids to play, but these are all people that grew up on the Harry Potter TCG and books and movies like we did. So I thought that was really awesome too.
Yeah, and you also dressed up as a Death Eater, so you were walking around in a Death Eater mask and wand and robe, which was fantastic. I didn't think to dress up until after you said that you were planning on it, and then I was like, oh, I should have probably dressed up too. So I'm glad that you did because it definitely was like a beacon for people to come to the Harry Potter table, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. Like I said, it's the second time I went to Gen Con, and the first time I just went as an observer because I didn't find out until too late that you guys weren't showing. So I was like, well, I'll just have a good time by myself. And this time, since I knew that other people were going to be going, I was like, well, let's make this a regular convention kind of thing and dress up. And since we were hosting the Harry Potter thing, I was like, I want to dress up as a Harry Potter character. And I kind of felt like some of the main characters were overdone, and a Death Eater would kind of stand out.
And I love that you did too. And I love that it was a Death Eater and not just a normal character. It made it so much more fun. But yeah, so it was really cool. And we brought, I don't know, there were probably like 20 different decks for people to play. Some of them were duplicates,
Mhm.
like just the same deck built, 3 or 4 times. But we tried to give them a spattering of some Quidditch stuff, some classic stuff, revival stuff, creature stuff, items. So there was a bit of a different spice for people to play, and we tried to give them different decks so they weren't just doing the same thing for the full like 2 hours. And I think people also just enjoyed like getting to see that there was some depth to the game and there were definitely options to play with and not just like aggro creatures and you win. Some people definitely picked up on the idea that there are stronger decks than others. And they were like, oh, yeah, this creature deck seems like it's a little strong. And we're like, it is kind of strong. You're right. For the most part, people seem to understand the variety and really
Yeah.
enjoyed that, which was fun.
Yeah, people change decks very often too. They would try one thing and then be like, "Hey, can you grab me another deck?" And I would purposely grab them. Hey, you just play creatures, but I'm gonna give you some events and locations. That was really cool. Even the ones that remembered a little bit about the game, they really enjoyed some of the revival cards because like events are something that you guys made up. Those weren't in the original 5 sets,
Yep.
so it was really cool to show them different things like that, and they absolutely loved the arts, both the old arts, of course, but all the new arts, all the new effects, and everything like that. And you also did a good job of building the decks. That way, it did have all different 9 archetypes of the cards that we have. It was really nice for them to enjoy those different examples of decks so that hopefully when we go back or go to a different convention next year or sooner, we can have more people interested and teach more people and have more people for the other events too.
Yeah, I will say there was one error that I made in the Learn to Play decks, and that was that I had a Fred and George Adventure Control lock deck that I forgot I had included in this stack of Learn to Play. And I think you gave it to somebody for one of the first decks for them to learn to play with. And the opponent was like, wow, this really sucks. And we were like, yeah, we know this was a mistake. So then we took that out so they couldn't keep learning to play with it because that was a little mean. So other than that, I thought the Learn to Play went really, really well.
Agree with you. Other than the statement you said that was a little mean. That deck was basically the same deck that I brought to the classic tournament we played.
It was close, yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe very mean, very mean. People still had fun. They were like, okay, wow, so this can be like a super competitive, control-y kind of thing, but also be like a very light game too. So they got to see both sides of stuff with that, even though it was a little much. So the Learn to Play was a lot of fun. And then we also
Yeah.
did 2 tournaments, one for Classic and one for all of our stuff, which was a lot of fun. And so we're going to talk briefly about the decks for both of those events. So we had 3 decks for the Classic event. 2 of them were creature decks, and those 2 were kind of similar, I would say. The one was built from a bunch of cards that somebody had opened over the past month. They had just gotten into the game, so they were building with whatever they had, and they weren't buying cards online and like getting the best deck ever. But it was still a fun deck. It still did a lot of cool stuff. Started Professor Flitwick, and then was essentially like a Charms creature build. So there was a little bit of control-y stuff, spell damage, bounce stuff with Charms, and then the creature package as well. It wasn't the full like 4 black bats, 4 sandstone gargoyles, like 3 or 4 Welsh greens, but it was still pretty close to a lot of that, which was really cool. And then the second creature deck was a McGonagall deck, and it was very similar to the Flitwick creature deck, except it did have the 4 of black bats, sandstone gargoyle, all that kind of stuff, and it just did the steel claw and picking on Neville situation as opposed to the charms, damage, and bounce. So they were very similar decks, very similar to what we saw 7 or 8 years ago at Gen Con when people were bringing these creature decks starting a professor. So it was cool to see that bit of a throwback to just very, very similar decks. For the people that came to the events, those were still the top decks that they saw as being the best.
Yeah, I thought the woman that brought her, for lack of a better term, makeshift deck because she doesn't
Yes.
have like a playset collection of everything. She's a recent collector, huge Harry Potter fan though. I think actually said she started collecting because she saw we were going to Gen Con.
Oh, you're
And she
right.
was like, "Oh, there's a trading card game," and I think that's when she started buying the cards. So yeah, it was a very recent acquisition for her. Those decks they're really cool. The McGonagall creatures obviously was a little bit more up to date with, like you said, Sammy, with play sets of the creatures, and it was just a lot
Yeah,
meaner. Her deck was very good though. It was
it was.
kind of
Yeah.
like an aggro stompy creatures spells. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and then so I ended up bringing basically one of the Freddie George deck we talked about earlier for the Learn to Play. I basically brought a different version, well, my version of that,
Which is a
which I've
better
been.
version.
I don't know if I'd say that, but I have been playing it for like 22 years ish.
Definitely a better version. Yeah.
And it goes into like it's Fred and George, Letters from No One, Caught by Snape, Dobby's Disappearance, Creatures. So it just locks you out of basically the entire game, which is very boring, but in a classic way to play, which is why I don't play classic that much anymore. It wins. Um,
It does what it's supposed to do, and it wins. Yeah, like
yeah,
that's what a deck's supposed to do inside of a tournament. Whether it's boring or not, like that's what it's supposed to do. But some people really enjoy the challenge of having to
yeah,
overcome that, and I'm not really about the challenge. But it was
yeah.
still fun.
Everybody I played with during the classic tournament on that deck, we played one match, and then everybody was like, "You win. We're not going to play 2 out of 3."
Well, and also it was this new player who was like this was really her first event, and she had built that deck from just cards she pulled from packs, and then she had to play against one of the most oppressive decks in Classic. And so
Yeah,
she was immediately just like, wow, this is just not fun for me. Because she
and
just wanted
boring.
to play her cards. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I understand, but the prize actually, that was the whole reason why I actually tried hard. I really wanted the finding the platform autographed card.
Yeah,
So
so let's talk about the prizes real quick because we had three different prizes, I think, for the classic. We had a playmat, we had packs of cards, and then let's tell the story about how we got these two signed cards. Somebody else from the group, Drew, was also at Gen Con for other things, and he swung by the Learn to Play really, really quick. And we used one of his decks for the Learn to Play. And then he also had these two signed cards, finding the platform. I forgot who the artist is on that card.
Laubinson.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And he said these are prizes for the classic tournament. And I'm like, awesome. So we ended up saying whoever comes in first and second will get a signed card, which you were very excited about, which was awesome. And so we did that. And then we gave away like 11 packs of cards, I think. There were like 6 Quidditch Cup and 5 Diagon Alley or some kind of combination, I think.
Hmm.
And then first place also got a playmat, which was donated by Mona from Into the Flu. And it was an original drawing. And I forgot who did that drawing right now off the top of my head. But that playmat was an original Harry Potter drawing that this artist did like 2 years ago. So that's just a really cool playmat to have as well. So I think the prizes were a lot of fun. You really wanted the signed card, so you were definitely like locked in and ready to just win games. So the classic was just it was just a fun return to like pre-COVID times kind of, and what that experience playing Harry Potter was like.
Yeah, no, it was I thought it was really fun. It was a blast. Yeah, I locked in is a nice way to say it. I was very mean. I brought the deck and I was just gonna like, well, you brought the deck for me. Is technically what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wanted to play that deck mostly to show people, hey, this is why we had to make Revival because this deck is too mean. Along with, I was honestly hoping that someone was going to bring a character deck, but that didn't happen because in old classic, Ginny or Ron character decks were also super oppressive and mean, and they won a lot too. No, I mostly brought the deck to show people, hey, this is why we changed some of the rules on the banned and errata list, and we created our own cards to combat the oppressiveness of these decks because we felt that as big of Harry Potter nerds as we are, that we needed to continue the game, but in a more fun and realistic way.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it quite well. And I think the two different events that we hosted for the two formats really displayed the differences between them. Because the revival was just like, here's creatures, and then here's this like super oppressive control thing. Or sorry, the classic was, which is like fine. And like classic does a lot of that stuff. They're very character heavy, usually, very control heavy. And that's just kind of what the classic metagame was built around for the most part. But the revival events were different. And I think there were kind of really 4 very different decks, which I think shows that banning some cards and designing new ones just allowed a wider group of decks to kind of come together to this event, which I was super excited about. I'll start by talking about the first one because he and I had some great games. So Jonathan from the group was at Gen Con as well, and he brought a Spew deck starting Hermione Spew and the Fat Lady, and then his deck was Gryffindor cards mostly, with like Oliver the Captain as his win con and Rita Skeeter as his win con. And this fool had 60 cards that were all not lessons in this deck. Had I
Yeah.
had one potions homework or one potions project, like I just would have won on the spot. No lessons. How does a
Yep.
deck have, and he it works so well, and he did really, really well. It was 58 characters and 2 items. And I was so pissed because the second game, or maybe it was the first game, I drew Pep Talk in my opening hand. And I'm like, this is going to be great. He has a character heavy deck. There's no items. It's going to be wonderful. So I kept this hand that was a bad hand. I played Pep Talk turn 1, and he uses the fat lady to search for Invisibility Cloak, which
which
is
is a
a
Gryffindor.
Gryffindor. I was
Yeah.
so pissed when he did that because I'm like, I forgot that card was 13 cost, that it was a Gryffindor, that it existed. I mean, it was wonderful. It worked the way it was supposed to work, but I was just pissed. And I'm like, well, no, Pep Talk is useless. I wasted a turn. I have a shitty hand, and then I lost. But the rest of our decks were a lot of fun. The character build he had was incredible. It's in the Discord channel. It'll be on our website soon. And it was just really, really great how he kept searching for Gryffindor Quidditch positions, playing them, and then using Oliver the captain to win. So kudos to
Yep.
you, Jonathan. It was just a really cool deck. Then speaking about the character heavy one that you mentioned for Classic,
Yeah.
this was kind of the revival take on that.
Yeah, no, it definitely was the revival take because instead of just controlling the board with characters, which is what the classic did, he was trying to win, and it was winning with Oliver the Captain, which is one of our new cards. He just had to get the whole team on the board, and he wins. And so it was very consistent too.
So
One,
consistent.
one of the reasons why the classic version was consistent is because of Ginny, the original Ginny, which is banned. So the original Ginny let them draw a boatload of cards, which obviously helped them get consistent because there's no max hand size. They never have to discard. While the new Ollivander, he's just like, hey, if I have the team on the field, then I win that way. I don't even have to draw, and it worked amazingly. I lost to him in one of the games. I
Yeah,
ended up
it was
winning the
great.
match, sadly, but I did end up losing one of the games to him, and it had me on the ropes for a minute. It was a
Yeah.
very cool deck.
Well, so talk about the deck that you played as well for this.
I played my Smack deck, the same one I played in one of the online tournaments that we had recently. Basically, I try to get as much lessons on the field as I can, and I use Rain of Bludgers to basically eliminate the entire board state, whether it's creatures or characters, which actually helped very well. Sometimes it's items, etc., and then I just play Smack. I love that card so much. One of my favorite cards that we ever created. I slowly control the board with different cards and or draw things until I can smack you, and then I replay the smack with like 3 turns or something like that. So
Yeah, and I want to backtrack real quick. So the character deck that Jonathan brought, the win con we said was Oliver, which is essentially get a full Quidditch team. So, all the 3 chasers, keeper, whatever, you win at the beginning of your next turn. Smack is a card that it's 15 costs, it's Transfiguration, and when you play it, your opponent discards any number of cards from their hand and play, and then they take 2 damage, I think, for every card that is still in play. So it's either they
and in their
discard,
hand.
yes, and in hand. It's brutal. I mean, it's 15 cost. It does take a while to get up there, but if you build the right control deck, like you can definitely do it, especially with the ramp that exists now and the mana rocks, I guess, for the lack of a better term. There's lots of way to do it. So Smack is definitely like a cool top end finisher, and it does the thing quite well.
It does work amazingly well. Yeah, so it makes them discard almost everything, their hand and from play. Otherwise, they're going to just lose
Yep.
immediately. That's one of the reasons why it's my favorite card. I think it's well balanced with how high it costs and how
Yeah.
powerful it is. Versus like Philosopher's Stone, it costs a lot, but it doesn't necessarily win you the game. It just stalls the game. While Smack can win you the game.
That's a really good card to pair it against because you can see like it's a huge difference in the power level and like what the design of those cards is actually doing. I think Philosopher's Stone is more just iconic and healing iconic, and rather than actually being like a good playable card. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
print something one day that makes it playable, but I don't know exactly what that would look like. So
I think
maybe one
Arthur's the
day.
closest thing that makes that playable, but there's other cards that we've
Yeah.
made that work better with Arthur.
A 15 cost stone that is so action heavy to play. But yeah, so then my deck was actually an old deck I'd played about a year ago or a year and a half ago, and it won me a tournament. And it was my McGonagall Squid Tentacles potion deck that just kind of plays creatures and was built around squid tentacles because I just loved the card. It was a lot of fun. It kept up with Jonathan's character deck quite well. I don't think we actually played during the revival event, but it kept up well and just did a lot of fun things. That deck list is also on our website, and I've talked about it before, so I won't dive into it now. But we did have one more deck, and it's another control deck, which is definitely not my alley, but I think it's more your alley.
Yeah, a little bit. It was Madame Maxime, which I was very excited when that deck got pulled out
I was shocked.
because it is up my alley with the control, but it is also it's very similar to one of the other decks that I played. I think it was 2 tournaments ago. You heal and or just slowly control your opponent's board state, while Maxine does 3 damage every time you play one of those spells that isn't already doing damage.
Yeah, so it's a lot of damageless spells, just control stuff. Definitely a slow. I don't think boring is the right word because it's not boring to play
Mm.
against because it's control-y, but it's not like lock control-y in the way that Fred and George are. So it's just different. But yeah, it was a really cool deck, and it was cool to see her as the starting character too. And actually, the man that played that deck was somebody who was here at Gen Con with his grandchildren, which was really cool. And he, I think, had said that he had played back in like 2001 or 2002 with
Yep.
his at the time son. And so it was just cool that like 25 years later he came to our event and he remembered kind of the basics of the game and he did decently with that deck too. So all that was just super cool.
Yeah, no, he did a great job with that deck considering he hasn't really played in
Yeah.
20 some odd years. And he also had a blast. And that's one of my favorite things about all of our events is yeah, we had some of the people that we've played in the Discord together with, but a lot of the new people who were like, "Oh, I can't believe this game is trying to make a comeback" or anything like that. They had such a good time like watching their faces light up to remember these cards or remember some of the rules or even to learn all the new stuff just because they're big Harry Potter fans. That was one of my favorite experiences. It's one of the reasons why I try to help people in the Discord to learn like the different sites we use to play the game is because I like hearing it or seeing like how excited they get over the nostalgia behind it.
Oh yeah, I agree entirely. I mean, we've been doing this for 7, 8 years at this point. Our first set came out 6 years ago. We've been like organizing online play and everything. And I agree entirely. Like just seeing the joy in person and getting to do it in person was so much fun. But that's actually a really great segue into we kind of discussed a little bit at Gen Con some potential future events and just kind of the structure of like what we had done. I think there was a lot of lessons learned. It was our first time hosting. Somebody else had hosted before COVID. So we just kind of learned a lot. But we were talking about Gen Con as kind of a whole and like, is this a convention that we want to come back to do more events at? Or are there other conventions? And you actually brought up a TCG convention, which I didn't know existed in Kansas. And I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Well, technically, it's in Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Okay, sorry.
So yeah, Kansas City has a Kansas City, Kansas side and a Kansas City, Missouri side. It's one giant city, but it's technically in 2 different states. But
Yeah.
on the convention center that's on the Missouri side, I just found out about it this year, even though I live pretty close by. They actually have a TCG convention, which might fit what we're doing a little bit better. Because Gen Con was great, but it's a lot, like they have some TCG there, but it is actually mostly like board games, things of that nature versus just TCG. So I think it would fit us just a little bit better. And it's closer to me, so that works out a little bit.
Yep.
And I haven't been to that one. That one's at the end of August, so it's actually only like a month difference from when Gen Con is. I looked it up. It's this around the same time every single year, just like Gen Con is. It's just at the end of August instead of the end of July.
So that's a potential for us to go to. There's also PAX Unplugged, which I think is in Philadelphia. And I believe the previous organizer did go to that one year because I remember seeing some posts about it, or it may have been canceled and they planned to do it during COVID. I don't remember. So there's PAX as well. And there's also just there's conventions all over the country that we can go to. So
Oh yeah.
if you guys have particular ones that you're like, this is a really great one because it's a TCG one or because it focuses on dead card games or whatever, like reach out to us on the Discord through email while, and it'll be one that we look at for the future. Obviously, we can't go to the TCG one this year because it was just too close to be able to plan stuff, but next year that's a strong contender for a place that we're going to go. But then in terms of actual events at these events and what we want to do, the learn to play, I think what we learned is we need more learn to plays because ours sold out on the first day, and then it was pretty much sold out. If somebody dropped a ticket one day, within a couple of hours, somebody bought that ticket. And it was like that up through Gen Con. And somebody actually said that she had been looking and trying to get a ticket for our Learn to Play, and someone had dropped like that morning or like that week, and she got one. So we need a lot more Learn to Plays with a lot more seats, is
Yeah.
what we learned.
But if anyone wants events, let us know about that too,
Oh yeah.
because that'll help us either create more events or different events that you guys might want to see.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Because we only know what we know about. I mean, Carter said that he just learned about the TCG one, as I did when he told me. So if you guys know about stuff that fits well, like please reach out and let us know. We are new to this hosting situation with these events and going to conventions in this kind of way. So please let us know. I believe one year they did a cube. I think they just did it one year. We want to do a draft. So there are different formats that we can do, and we're open to it. We just need the ideas. So please send us that stuff. We're definitely open to it. And we definitely want to do more events as we release more and more sets because it was just, as Carter said, so much fun. It was just a blast. I thought it would be fun. I just didn't know exactly what to expect. And it was just more than I expected, is the only way I can describe it.
Oh, I agree with you. I've always been a huge Harry Potter nerd. Well, anything that has to do with Harry Potter. Like I have an entire room dedicated to a bunch of just random Harry Potter stuff. Whenever someone gets me a gift of like Christmas, birthday, or anything like that, they never ask me what I want anymore, even though I'm almost 40. They just like, hey, do you have this? And it's always Harry Potter related.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so I knew it was going to be fun because anything Harry Potter related, I have a blast at. But I have to phrase it basically the same way you did. It was more fun in a different way than I
Yeah.
could ever have anticipated, and I really want to do either more events and or new locations and like that. So we need to hear out from our listeners to get some ideas for that kind of stuff.
And we are doing this at the end of the day for all of you to play events. So if there's stuff you want, let us know. I'll give you a quick example. About a year ago, 6 months ago, people wanted kind of like a themed event with whatever. And so we did a common themed event online, and it went well, and people really enjoyed the challenge of building a deck with common cards only. So if you have these ideas, like we're open to them, we will try to make them happen. We can't make all of them happen. So please reach out, let us know, because we are definitely all about that. But there's some other things I kind of want to like mention that kind of are around Gen Con or happening in relation to Gen Con. We printed many of the cards that we ended up using because either we didn't have the cards, traveling with them was too difficult, we don't have enough copies, whatever the situation was. And we have high def files of all the cards of both formats except for Chamber of Secrets on our website. Hopefully that will come up in the next couple of months. We're just waiting for the last like 30 scans, and then we're going to do our stuff and we'll have them up. And we also have card backs for people to use. So like you don't have to spend a lot of money on this. You can spend a little bit of money just on printing the cards either at home or through like Make Playing Cards or some company like that. So please print out cards and come play with us. It's a lot of fun. Print out at home and play with friends. I know many people do that, and that's why we make everything for free online and printable.
We also have a lot of online resources, and people are always looking in our Discord for games to play. And you don't even have to print anything out. You don't need a camera or anything. That you just need internet access, and you can do it on your phone. It's not great, but on a tablet or a computer, there are people always looking for games to play, especially with the new set that came out during Gen Con. People are looking for more games. Actually, I literally just got a notification that someone's looking for a game right this second.
Yeah, exactly. There's always people looking, and they're always willing to help teach you if nothing else. So you don't have to have like an expert level knowledge or whatever. People can definitely help. And yeah, we released a set during Gen Con, and we did that intentionally to try to like coincide the two things. So we will try to do that maybe in the future. So that's an incentive to come to a future event. There may be new cards to play with. We'll see kind of how stuff goes and what events we go to in the future, but that's definitely an option as well. Thanks for joining me, Carter. That was a lot of fun to have a different host and to be able to like talk about this experience, because it was an experience and hopefully one that we're going to have a lot more. That
I hope
is
so.
the goal. Yes, that is the goal. But make sure you guys all follow our different socials down in the comments. And as Carter was saying, if you want to learn how to play or just talk to people about deck building, whatever, we have our Discord, which is the most active place. And then we also have Reddit, YouTube, a whole bunch of different things. There's a bunch of great deck building resources, how to play, what platforms to use, all that kind of stuff. And our website has a new player tab as well if you're a new player who wants to get into this, and it will walk you through kind of step by step, like how to get into it, where to go. We have a tournament coming up in September, which will be in a couple of weeks, and it'll be the first tournament with some new cards from Triwizard Tournament, the new set. Do you have any idea, like any new cards that you might put into a deck or what kind of deck you might use?
So the most I've honestly thought about, because I like trying to whittle my decks down eventually, but what I'm most excited about is the new lesson types that we have available. I'm excited to try them out a little bit more before I figure out what deck, because that usually helps my decks the best, as far as whether it's fixing colors or our new ones don't really fix the colors. They give you a decent advantage. But I'm excited to test those out a little bit more before I decide on what I'm bringing. But to be honest, it's probably going to be another Smack deck.
I'm not sure how much in the last set is going to help with that, but I'm excited to see whatever little additions you make. And you
Yeah.
you are the one that probably uses the advanced lessons the most. You definitely build a lot of decks with them, and you have a good strategy behind it too, which is also good. We'll see what happens. I, despite designing the cards, have not thought about what deck I'm going to bring to this tournament yet, but I have like 2 or 3 weeks to think about it. I'll come up with
Yep.
something, I'm sure. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yours will still probably have some kind of malevolent mixture in there.
Oh, it always does. It always has to. Best card ever. But anyway, guys, so thanks for listening. Make sure you follow everything below, and until next time, we'll chat with you later. See ya.
Bye.